All right, here we go. Gorgeous June day. And here we go. The weirdest, maybe the strangest, rescue boat ever built. So let's go over this real quick. This is a Zip Kits cracker box, an A box, so it's a flat bottom. This was actually my twin cracker box, had two 30cc engines in it. It was fine, it worked well, but I took it apart. And I just had the hull sitting on a shelf. So what I wanted to do, I've been, for the last 2 or 3 years, been looking for a rescue boat other than my kayak that is just like the ultimate rescue boat. And one of the ways I like to bring in a boat is by a buoy. So I need to print a new one, but I will tie a little rescue buoy to that, a little 3D printed thing. And what I do when a gas boat stalls out there, I will wrap it around it. It'll get tangled around the rudder, basically, of my hydroplanes or whatever, and I'll pull it in. And but I'm 3D printing some things I designed that are receivers, so you'll be able to slide a fork into this, and it's going to have a foam and a big fork that'll push them in too. Because sometimes that is better. Because when you pull in a boat, sometimes they swamp when you're pulling them in, and they'll get all the water in there. So this is an interesting boat. What makes this very different is it has a full 60-pound thrust trolling motor on the bottom of it. So what I did was I used two 20 kg servos, and right now it's still in kind of a prototype stage. Two 20 kg servos going in a push-pull configuration running a 3S, so over 12 volts, which is just, trolling motors for rowboats. This thing will pull a boat, like for instance, I actually took this trolling motor off of my 16-foot rowboat that could hold two full-grown men at 250 pounds and all the gear and whatever else for my rescue boat on my other lake. And it would glide us out at 7 miles an hour all day long on a 12-volt battery. So now I'm running one 3S. This is just testing for right now. It weighs this is an aluminum casting all the way up, and obviously it's a very large DC motor. And how trolling motors work is they have a twist handle in most cases, unless it's a foot remote, and it has a potentiometer basically. And so you got 1, 2, 3 in reverse. So I took that, I threw that away. I cut everything off. I made a 3D printed spacer here, and I actually put in a DC motor speed control. It's hooked up to the transmitter. Same thing I did for the robotic riding mower that you guys may have seen before. So very, very cool. I did do a flotation test. I repainted the hull. This is just a spare hull that I had laying around. So if you have a 13, 16 pound ballast at the bottom, kind of like a sailboat. I grew up sailing, so, this is pretty much an untippable boat. Plexiglass cover, which I will normally, and I did put some gasketing around here. I will normally do hatch tape around this like that. It's not pretty, but like I said, it's kind of a prototype stage. We're going to leave it off for now. I did a flotation test, so when the hull was still, I didn't do the best job in the world sealing the hatch in. That's okay, it's a rescue boat. We're going to have a fork on the front, towing in the back, and when I did my flotation test, I just basically took the hull, put some tape over the back where all the holes were, because this was a running cracker box at one time, and I just took this big trolling motor and dropped it in there, and it floated. So I'm like, screw it, we're going to build this sucker. So let's see what happens. Just a simple RC setup with a 3S. We're going to plug it in. We're not going to use the cap tonight, or the hatch. Okay, let's make sure this is going to work. Okay, looks like that's working. Let's check our steering. Left and right. Good. So the only problem with this boat, and we're not going to actually rescue a boat today, but we're just going to see if it works. see if it leaks, because what I did, I kind of built in a grease trap for the axle here. So hopefully it doesn't leak too much. It shouldn't. Just a basic 5000 3S battery, 5000 milliamp. And the only problem with it is it does have a large draft. Looks like that draft's about 17 inches or so. So we'll have to walk it out. That is one problem about it. But I wanted something that really had some ass to it, because I've got my little tugboats and things that I pulled boats in, but God, it takes forever. And if it's a big gas boat, like one of my skiffs or something, I have to get in a kayak and do it. It's like, pain in the ass. So we're going to see this. First thing we want to do is we want to put this in the water and see how much it leaks around the center, because I really think I'm going to have to use fifth scale servos on the steering eventually. So we're going to put this in. Let's see what we got. 0 water leak so far. Okay, so this does have a DC speed control in it, forward and reverse and all that. I'm not looking for speed here. I just want to have power. And look at that. The draft, which is how much the boat, displaces, looks really good. Again, this is a Zip Kits A box. I've got no water leak, which absolutely floors me. I did take a turn fin and put it on the center, because I'm not really sure how good the steering's going to be, because when you're steering more mass than the hull, you worry about it not turning, honestly. So, but once I get the fork on there, because I'm 3D printing receivers, they're going to hold a PVC fork. They're going to go here for the main and here, and then it's going to have a fork that'll scoop boats. Once that's on there, it will definitely go much better. So I'm not sure if you guys can see that prop under there. We're going to see what it does. Oh my. A little bit of listing. Not too bad. But it does move pretty good. I'm impressed. Now it does have a lot of prop rotation, so let's just go slow. This is maybe an 1/8 throttle. We're going to turn it. It's turning fairly well. It's actually pretty good. Wow. And now again, this is a rescue boat. We don't care about speed, but what I do want is power. I want to be able to really push in a boat. And this is, like I said, I think it's a 60 or an 80 pound thrust trolling motor underneath this thing. And it weighs a good 13, 15 pounds on the ballast on the bottom. And you can see it doesn't have a lot of draft. It's sitting like a normal cracker box right now. The lid is not on, obviously, but 1 3S battery. It's just sitting there. It's pretty much untippable. You would have to have a wave 5 feet high in order for this thing to flip over, because that draft is so deep and it's acting like a keel on a sailboat. And look at that. It actually goes pretty quick. Now, it is listing, so not listing, but it's curving to the right. So we're going to go steering trim to the left. See if we can straighten it out. Which is fine. I don't really care. It's a lot of torque. Look at that. Turns right like a 360. Amazing. This was all a guess. Honestly, to my knowledge, I've never seen anybody take a full-size trolling motor and put it on the bottom of an RC boat. But it seems to be working fairly well. Let's see if we've taken on any water from the gap. It does have a lot of prop torque. That's why you see it listing over to the side. There's a dog that, I don't know whose that is. Let's see if we took on any water. Not even a drop. And that's what I was concerned about, because I basically have this thing coming up as a straight axle, and look, 0 water and a little old 3S. That is awesome. Now, It is a fairly expensive rescue boat, considering the trolling motor was $250. But the ESC, look at how instantly it turns. This is insane. That's full speed, which I don't care. You know, it does turn very funky. But if you go like quarter speed, this is quarter speed. It turns on a dime. And I'm pretty sure that Joe from Zip Kits, when he designed this A-Box kit, did not intend for a 16 or whatever pound trolling motor to be on the bottom, but it really works well. I'm not even sure if I'm gonna, let's try reverse. So the wife needed a jar open for dinner. So I'm up on my deck. Let's see. Look at that. How neat. So I think this is going to be a great rescue boat. When you consider the amount of torque, this is a trolling motor, a full size. Okay. Full size trolling motor, like you'd have on a bass boat. And from here, it really looks like just a really quiet electric boat. That is crazy. Let's go in reverse again. I don't know. I hope you guys can see this okay. Goes in reverse. So if you get weeds on it, look at that. It actually goes pretty quick. You know, all things considered. If you're in a full-scale walk down the road here, down the hill, if you're in a full-scale bass boat, or whatever you have this trolling motor on, it's going to go about that speed. But, and I've used this trolling motor before, but the neat part is how much power and battery life are you going to have now because you're pushing a 6-pound hull. It's insane. So I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to lift it up like this if I can. And it's a very heavy boat. Very heavy. Probably weighs about 25 pounds. And I'll show you guys a bottom ass view of it. Pretty neat. And it's better if you go slow because you don't have that torque rotation, prop rotation of it pulling. So that's like a little bit less than a quarter throttle. We're going to trim it out. There it goes. Not too bad. That's full speed. So considering the motor is this big around, and it is a brushed motor, it is not brushless. Look at the reverse on that. So if you get weeds on it, which we do have weeds occasionally here, you can just flip it in reverse. Look at that. It actually works pretty good. This is gonna be so great. When I get the fork on it, look at that. Look at that right turn. It's just like a normal RC boat in some regards. If you go left turn, like this, it's okay. You go right turn, watch this. It's like a forklift. And that's one of the reasons I called it a tow motor. Because if you're from Michigan, you call it a tow motor. If you're from normal places, you call it a forklift. But anyway, either way, it's awesome. It really works well. Look at this. Joe, if you're watching, there is a full-size trolling motor, steel and aluminum, hanging off your little cracker box. So we're going to run through the weeds. See what happens here. Didn't even phase it. Now, we see all these weeds. Let's do a reverse. Still, let's check our water. A little bit. There's a little bit of water in here, but not bad at all. Nothing. A normal cracker box would have twice that water in it. So there's some weeds. Let's do a reverse. Man, that thing's got power. You could probably pull in a full-size boat with this. I'm going to try it. As a matter of fact, next video, I'm going to get my kayak. I weigh about 240, 250. I'm going to get in that kayak, and we're going to tie it up to this boat, and we're going to pull it down the lake, see what happens. So, look at that turning. That is hilarious. There's reverse. Now again, this is a Zip Kits A-Box that I modified when I bought it. You guys might have seen the video. It's called the Two-Face. and it was purple, I think, and it had faces on it. It had two 30cc engines in it, and I modified it. Look at that. Thing turns like crazy. All right, I'll show you something interesting. I put in dual rails, obviously, because we had a 30cc motor here and a 30cc motor here. And the space in between fits my 3S just perfect. Look at that. All right, so I'm going to lift this thing up. Wow, that's crazy. It's a 70 amp ESC. So my draft isn't very deep, so we're going to beach it because it does have a fairly deep keel. Let's see, hopefully you guys can see this in the video. Not the lightest boat in the world. Not at all. Okay, here we go. That's what's underneath. You see that? Friggin' crazy. I love it. And it works. This is the first time I've run it. We're gonna disconnect the battery. It doesn't break. There we go. And what I'm going to do after dinner, I'm going to come down and run it some more. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to run it some more, and I want to see how long this battery lasts, because you're supposed to run a deep cell 12 volt outboard battery on a trolling motor, if anybody knows anything about these, if you fish. This will be hatch taped down, and we're going to have forks in the front, again, like I said, to pull this in. And we're going to see how long a normal 3S 5000 lasts on it with a 70 amp DC ESC. We're not drawing a lot of torque from this boat because the hull weighs nothing, right? There you go. Now you can see the torpedo underneath there. I did angle it a little bit when I put in the joint mechanism. So far, so good. So, till next time, kids, I'll do a video pulling my fat ass on a kayak, and we'll see what it does. Keep the dry side up. Bye.